So I wanted to talk a bit about Stalker 2 and um, the public's reaction to it. I played the original, bought it off the shelf, the very first Stalker title back in the, I think it was the mid 2000s. And yeah, I didn't get very far into the title because frankly, Stalker kind of kicked my ass. I think I only got as far as the helicopter graveyard, which wasn't very far. But anyway, since that time, the Stalker franchise has been very respected, and for good reason. It brought lots of innovation to the tactical shooter genre. I'm not sure to what degree it inspired Fallout, but Stalker has a more gritty, realistic feel. Anomalies notwithstanding, than Fallout does. I would say Stalker 2 is an example of what Louis C.K. was talking about. If you watch his video, or a video where he's on Conan O'Brien's show, and he says everything is amazing and nobody is happy. And it didn't used to be this way, but now the gaming community, or the community of gamers, is just filled with so many critics, and I don't think this is limited to the gaming industry, but it's filled with so many critics leading their own ineffectual lives, but trying to like garner some kind of street cred or clout by criticizing the amazing work of others. These people should acquaint themselves with some Ayn Rand before they die. Like, go watch The Fountainhead. These critics, they're like parasites. You could say, oh, don't try to delegitimize their opinions. That's the thing, is they're just opinions. Stalker 2 and GSC Game World, in whatever form it was at the time, I'm not sure if it went by that same name back in 2007, they've actually been around for a while. They've established a name for themselves. They've accomplished things. Whereas these critics, all they've done is run their mouths, right, to try to get views or likes. So when people, like, they'll cite this guy SkillUp, and they'll say, well, SkillUp said it wasn't worth buying. Who the fuck is SkillUp? I've never heard of this guy. Stalker 2 and Stalker and GSC Game World I've heard of, but SkillUp I've never fucking heard of. So who the fuck is he that I should listen to him? Now, I've run this game, Stalker 2, on a 1080 Ti card, on a hard drive against recommendations by the developers, 32 gigs of RAM, an i7-9700K processor, and using FSR3 and I think frame generation. And I've gotten it to run at medium settings for the most part, and I could play it. No doubt I will, and since I'm on rookie mode, because the previous Stalker titles kicked my ass, so I specifically asked the developers to give us a super easy mode just so that I could enjoy all the work that they created. Unlike what happened with the earlier Stalker titles, where my own lack of experience, and even with Stalker Anomaly, if I set it on the easiest settings, I can't get very far in that game. I don't know what it is. I'm 55 years old, so my my reflexes may not be great, but I seem to do okay in hairy situations in Scum, a game that I've put about 2,500 hours into. But I really don't seem to have the skills when it comes to PvP anymore, at least against young people. So, if you give me a game where I can be more strategic and tactical, I can use superior tactics to get an advantage against other players in PvP, but if it's just based on twitch reflexes, I'm probably going to lose. Now, be that as it may, I did play Operation Flashpoint Elite against one player by the name of Aryan Artisan, and his tactics and strategy were so far advanced than mine were. Like, he could think like 2 or 3 moves ahead of me, and it was almost like he was omnipresent, because he just knew what the next move I was going to make was. And we're talking over distances of like 800 meters, not like around a building or something. So, anyway, the point is that I think I'll be able to handle this game at rookie difficulty, but probably not at veteran. But the thing is, except for some frame rate hitches that I guess others are experiencing too, even with really good systems, I'm able to run this game off of a hard drive. And mind you, I defragged the hard drive after I installed the game and after it was patched. And I will after every single patch after that, just to make sure the access times are as small as possible, to pull a file from the hard drive when the game needs it, But like, yeah, so the game I guess has some bugs, but let's take Scum. Scum's been in early access. I think I've been playing it for about 5 years now, and I know it was in early access even before then. And it's been nothing but bugs. I mean, no, let me not word it that way. It has had bugs the whole time. And I know of very few. I can't even think of one example of a game these days that is bug-free. Maybe something like, and I don't even play it enough to know, maybe something like Counter-Strike. Maybe they've worked out all the bugs out of that, where you're talking about a very small, limited arena. But when you're talking about branching storylines, artificial intelligence, NPC reactions, anomalies, inventory, you're gonna have bugs. So, and like these kids that think everything's gotta be perfect, otherwise it doesn't deserve their $60. You've known this title was coming out since 2018. If you're a fan of Stalker, you weren't saving your $60 for 6 years to buy this title. You act like it's such a sacrifice to put down $60, which has been the standard like price for a full-size AAA game. It's been the price like for a long time now, like probably over a decade. And you're acting like $60 is such a hit for a AAA title. You know that, oh my gosh, how dare they charge me money when you know they're like it's just insane. And you could see this level of insanity and entitlement as Louis C.K. describes in his little bit on Conan O'Brien. You could see it in free titles. Like one of the few people that's actually qualified to criticize a game is Blue Drake 42, because in days past when he would criticize a game, people would say, "Oh, if you're so smart, why don't you make your own game then?" Well, he actually went and did that, and then when he made a full playable game, an army of these entitled little idiots who were getting a free game just showed up en masse to take the game down, to just shoot it down. And then these same hypocrites, many of them, when this first major update came out and fixed a lot of the issues that they didn't like, then they were eating their words and eating their hats, acting like they never said some of the things that they said before. Like they're trying to act like when the game was initially released that it was never going to go anywhere and that it was just a failure. When it wasn't. It was a full-fledged title. It was like so much better than you would get back in the day in a tactical first-person shooter with a AAA title. And you were getting it for free, and they would still act like they were entitled to some pristine, perfect thing with all the features that they wanted right out of the gate, when they weren't even participating in the development process along the way. So it's the same culture of these whiny little fagulas trying to just get some kind of cred for themselves, criticizing someone's amazing work. Blue Drake could criticize Stalker 2, and I'm confident that if he did, he would at the same time acknowledge the immense accomplishment of this title, given that like Chernobyl, the exclusion zone is now free roam, right? It's not divided up into little regions with loading screens. It's now an open free roam area. That's a tremendous accomplishment. And I'm pretty sure he would acknowledge that. And he would he would probably lay down the reality that, hey, games are gonna have bugs. What gets me is when you inform a developer of a title's bugs and then they don't do anything about it. Now, there could be bugs where I guess it's super difficult to find out what's causing it, but then there are bugs where you've been informed that the bug is there and then you've done nothing about it years later. That's really annoying. But I don't think GSC Game World is going to be a developer that is going to ignore the bugs in their title, because in the documentary War Game, you could see where they're fixing the, or they're they're reporting the bugs themselves to their own team during a public demo. So, at some point, you've just got to release the work, you know, because it's never going to be 100% perfect. And that's what these critics either are too stupid or inexperienced to understand, or too insincere to acknowledge, because they're trying to undermine the work of this development studio and to undermine this title. If Stalker isn't your bag, fine, move along. But don't give us a bunch of BS about, oh my gosh, it's got bugs. I wouldn't spend your $60 on this title right now, guys. You know, you're better off spending it on, what, vapes? Weed? Fucking losers. You know, when I die, that's one of the comforting things about getting old, is that when you finally die, you get to leave a world with a bunch of fucking idiots in it.